Rev up your engines! Been doing this for 52 years, man. I have seen a lot of scams that people have pulled. Sometimes they were out and out fraud scams. Sometimes they were just poor mechanics who didn't know what they're doing and screwed up jobs. But either way, you don't want that to happen to you. Now, the first and best tip is this: get a scan tool. Now, there's scan tools you can use on your phone that I've shown. There's standalone scan tools that cost $40, $20, and $5,000. Well, you don't need a $5,000 one, but just get any scan tool. Because if your car's not running right and your check engine light's on, that check engine light is the generic code. It means there's one of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different codes stored. These machines access those codes, and they're simple to use. You just plug them in. You got to make sure the right side, this is a notch here, and there's a notch there. So it goes in upside down like this. Then it starts reading. Now in this case, it's scanning through, and what does it find? As you can see here, no codes found. This thing's running fine, it doesn't have any codes. Now, if it had codes, it shows the codes. It gives freeze-frame data that's on there. If you have an expensive scan tool, this particular one's about 200 bucks, it memorizes all that stuff. But say you got a cheap $20, $30 one that doesn't memorize things. Heck, we all have phones with cameras. Just go to the screen and take a picture of it. Then you'll have it stored on your phone. Then if you're not going to fix it yourself, you go to a mechanic. Here's the problem with my car. You know exactly, you got all that information. So you're not going to be easily scanned that way. You now know what shape the car was in. Let's say you get it back. It's not running right. You plug your scanner back in, it's got the same codes, guy didn't fix it. Or even worse, and I've seen this on numerous cars that people have brought me after other people worked on them. They now have more codes, different codes. Not only was it not fixed right, but something was done wrong while they were working on the car. Because if somebody's going to pull a scam on you, watch this. Just unplug the MAF sensor here, right here. There, it's unplugged. It shows that it's got P0101, a mass airflow volume circuit range performance. I don't think I haven't seen this done on people's cars before. Other than just unplugging it, which is obvious for another mechanic, they will cut a wire somewhere hidden in the back that'll trip the code, and you're not going to find that, but you're going to know something fishy is up if all of a sudden you get this new code right after they worked on the car. That it's totally coincidental that they worked on your car, you get it back, and now it's got all these problems that it didn't have before. And anybody trying to pull a scam on you, if they see you coming with a scan tool and you say, well, here's the code, here's the data, they're going to think twice about pulling some kind of obvious scam on you. Now, the next common scam has to do with mechanics with little oil cans who are crooked. They'll squirt oil around and say, oh look, this is leaking. Something that I've seen happen a lot of times. I've seen people get sold struts when they didn't even need them. Mechanic will come in, they'll squirt oil all around the strut. Strut's full of oil, there's a seal. The seal goes bad, the oil is squirted out, showing it's bad. Well, they squirt oil all over the place and say, look, see, it's leaking, it's all oily. That's why it's a good idea to get a strong flashlight like this, baby, and search all around. Look at your struts. They should be bone dry like this. Not covered with oil, but you check them first. Then if mysteriously some of your struts are now coated with oil, when you bring it back, you know, they're trying to pull a scam on you. And really, if you don't want to be scammed, hey, learn to do at least the simple things yourself. Air filters, you just clip them, pull them out, put another air filter in. Do that yourself. If your spark plugs are like this Toyota, simple, learn how to replace them yourself. I have had more cars come in here that weren't running right or failed the yearly emissions test because either the air filter was totally clogged up or the spark plugs weren't out. Stuff you can easily do yourself, then nobody's going to scam you. And one scam that I advise you to just stay far away from is the free lifetime oil changes that some dealers and shops will give you. They just want to get you in the shop. That's the lost leader. Oh, I'm getting a free oil change. Great. Every time you take it in for the free oil change, guess what? They're going to find something that either they'll say, oh, look, this maintenance is due, or this is worn, that is worn. Be very cautious about these free oil changes that you're going to get. Why not do like me? Change your own oil. You get good quality oil, good filter, you know when it's done right. Then nobody's getting in there to try to rip you off. Because realize today, car dealerships don't make much money selling cars. They're kind of cut to the chase. The internet, everybody knows what they cost, what you got to pay for them, what their profit margin is. They make the majority of their profit fixing the cars that they sell. not selling them. And once they get you in that door, they're gonna try to sell you the kitchen sink. I don't think it's just dealers that do that. There's a guy on the street here years ago. He had an inspection license for the state of Texas for doing those yearly emissions and safety inspections. Now there's very little profit in actually doing the inspection. You don't make that much money. This guy did it, so he got people in the shop, and then man, did he try to sell them stuff. He'd say, oh, you failed the inspection, but it's gonna be about 450 bucks and I can get it done by 5 o'clock today if you authorize it now. And the way I found out about the guy was one of my customers went there to get their car inspected and he got scammed like this. The guy said, oh, I need to tune it up and do all this stuff. Well, it turned out what the guy did was, this was in the day when they actually checked the exhaust coming out with 5 gas analyzers, one of these sensors up the exhaust to measure the gas coming out. He would wipe that sensor with a rag that had cleaner, Varsol on it. And when he stuck it in, that would make all the chemicals go sky high and it would fail the test. My customer said, oh, my car's running bad. I just got it inspected. So I looked in and the guy had paid 450 bucks to have it tuned up, spark plugs, all kinds of stuff. I pulled out the spark plugs on his Honda. And they must have been the original ones. They were covered with carbon. They were all worn out. And it takes over 100,000 miles to wear some of these that thin. And his were worn that thin. The guy got him in by the scam of having an inspection license and then sold them the farm. So be very, very leery if you're getting your car inspected and they're trying to sell you a whole bunch of stuff. That's just the game that a lot of these guys play. And really, many states like Florida, they don't even have the inspection anymore. In Florida they did, then people complained, a lot of the elderly people were getting ripped off. So they said, well, if you're gonna make us have the state inspection, the state's gonna have to do it. The state did it for 1 year and they lost so much money, then they said, we're not even doing them anymore. And sure, everybody wants to have a safe car, but a lot of times the safety inspection itself, it was just a ruse that the guys are using to get business in when they didn't have any and make a profit. Now, when I was a young mechanic, my grandfather, for a short time in my father's garage, did state inspections in New York State, but he was an honest mechanic. And back in those days, it was only $1.25. And the law was, if somebody came in and you said you were busy, you had to give them another time to come back, and then they have to inspect it. And if you're tying up 1/3 of your bays for $1.25 job, it wasn't worth it, so they just stopped doing inspections. But as I said, that small amount of money isn't why the crooked guys inspect cars. They inspect it just to get you into their garage, and then the selling process begins. So if you suspect they're trying to sell you stuff you don't need, just leave. It's your car. You have the right for that. They can't hold you hostage. And the last scam to avoid is a common one that's happening in Houston lately. Crooked people will either follow you in their car and say, your tire's loose, it's wobbling. Or they'll meet you in a parking lot and they'll say, hey, look, you got a flat tire. I had that happen to one of my customers with a flat tire. Supposedly fix it, bring it back. And then I said to her, did you notice anything different driving your car before this flat occurred? And she said, no, it drove perfectly fine. Well, if you get a tire, they generally go flat over time. It's gonna start pulling to one side, make squealing noises. I'm assuming what happened to her was this. Got a car key, and he stuck it and pushed that Schrader valve in, took the cap off, pushed the Schrader valve in, and then made it go flat. Then all he did was take her tire off, go down the street, fill it up with air, and then put it back on again. Because I looked at her tire and there were no marks on it that showed that it had been patched. Didn't look like it had been taken apart, patched on the inside and put back together, because everything on it was still dirty. I'm assuming all he did was let the air out, took it off, pumped it up with air somewhere else, put it on, and she paid the money for that. And certainly don't fall for that scheme of they're following you and they say, your tire's loose, but we can fix it for you. People have been doing that in Houston lately, and I guess some people are falling for it. Now, it's kind of hard to tell if that's a scam or not when you're driving yourself because you can't see. But if you got a friend in the car, just say, roll the window down, look at the tires. If they're going straight and they're not wobbling, you know it's a scam. Because from my experience, I don't know any honest mechanics who drive around in their cars, looking at people's cars and pulling them over and saying, your wheel's falling off. Some people do dredge the bottom of the bucket, sleaziest thing they can to make money. Most mechanics have plenty of business. They don't need to create business. And now you know how you can avoid some of these scams. So you still have your car running good, but people don't rip you off. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.